I would like some guidance about. I'm very grateful that they're there to show me the places where I'm still healing and I'm still dealing with my own stuff, and I want to get better at not giving into the frustration and still being present with who they are at the same time.
When you are co-creating with others, do you think that for you to be truly healed, we're using your words, healed, which sort of implies that there is a sickness of some kind that we can't quite feel. But when you feel like there is something to be healed in you, are you saying that you should be able to stand in interaction with anyone and anything and feel good?
Yes.
Then we have to change our entire philosophy. Wait, we'll try to rework it. No, we can't do it. And we're playing with you a little bit, but does that mean you should be able to turn on the television and participate fully in whatever it is that is offering? And you should be able to absorb it and feel your best anyway. Is that what allowing is? Laying all over the hot stove and saying, you see, that isn't what we know allowing means at all. Allowing means knowing so much how you want to feel and picking from things around you that feel that way, that you do such a fabulous job of setting your tone there that universe only rendezvous you with things that are like that. We never want you to look right at something you really don't want and say, I've got to be able to look at this and feel good. Guidance is saying, look over there. Guidance isn't saying, look at that and like it. Guidance is saying, you're looking at that and you're not liking it, look someplace else.
Yes. And doing that and staying present with the experience of being with them at the same time, rather than just physically removing myself or mentally removing myself. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, you can get very good at practicing positive aspects of anyone, so much so that you're just blind to anything else. In other words, you can get so good at activating the best of everyone, but it takes some diligence, it takes some determination to do it. And what we're suggesting is that sometimes it might be too much of a quantum leap. In other words, to look right at something that not only you don't like, but you've never liked it, and you don't like it in yourself, and so it's sort of a raw and ragged issue, and now you're looking at it and it's stirring all that up. And some people would say, well, what Abraham is encouraging you to do is just put your head in the sand or look someplace else. And today what we're talking about is moving up the emotional scale on those things. But we want you to embrace your own guidance system, and we can feel within you just a little bit of something that we want to soothe and resolve for everyone, and that is, please love your negative emotion as much as you love your positive emotion, because it's all guidance that is helping you to get back in sync with who you really are. So give us an example of something that, and we know, we believe, we think, well, maybe not, you were exaggerating about wanting to kill them or kill you, but give us an example.
Well, I haven't done either one of those.
Give us an example of something that brought strong negative emotion, and let's move up the emotional scale just on one topic at a time until you realize what the work is.
The older boy will frequently make fun of the younger boy. So you have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. And the 10-year-old is a little more sophisticated, a little more intelligent, a little more world-wise. And sometimes, instead of using that to guide the little guy, he'll use it to make the little guy feel inadequate and stupid and incompetent and dumb.
All right, so...
And it's hard to watch that.
So that's happening. And as you watch it, what happens to you? What's the emotional set point?
I get angry.
All right. Now, you get angry. Does it feel like power or powerlessness?
I certainly feel a reduction in my power. Yeah.
Do you feel frustrated or...
And I probably remember when that was done to me.
Well, we're headed there, and you're ahead of us, because...
Well, I'll wait for you. If you
it's all right. The vibration that you feel when that happens is much more than about what's happening.
Sure.
It activates a vibration that's very familiar, that has never been resolved.
That's what I was referring to
healing.
Sentences ago with the word healing. Yes, exactly.
So you have to sort of set aside what seems to be happening and now deal with what is happening to you. In other words,
Yes.
because you can't do anything about what anybody else is feeling until you have done something about the way you are feeling. And you cannot guide someone to a feeling of empowerment until you are in a place of empowerment. In other words, the 10-year-old is feeling as powerless as the one that he is now making feel powerless. In other words, it's sort of a chain of pain that everyone's involved in, and everybody's sort of pointing fingers at everybody else, but nobody's doing anything about their own self-empowerment.
Yeah.
In other words, we are certain that the 10-year-old has been getting some of that from somebody, maybe a lot of somebody's, out in his peer group circle, and now he is just sort of giving as he's been getting. And we would say to him that in many ways he is following what we are teaching, in that it feels better to him to be a bully to someone who is smaller than him than it does for him to feel like he is the powerless one that is being bullied. And we would say, going up the chain of pain, that every bully that has ever bullied anybody was doing some of what we are teaching, in that it does feel so much better to feel anger. Doesn't blame feel so much better than guilt, doesn't it? And so everybody is trying to reclaim their power. And so let's do it with you for just a moment here. So let's not try to figure everything out for everyone forevermore. Let's just take the anger that you feel and acknowledge that the anger that you are feeling is your knee-jerk reaction because it feels better to you to be angry, and we're using the word anger rather than frustration. It feels better to you to be angry at this 10-year-old than it does to relive the discomfort that you are empathetically feeling for the one who is being sort of picked on. So you're doing naturally what we're teaching here. But you're also doing what most people do. You don't feel anger is appropriate. In other words, it's very hard to coach someone into anger because there are anger management classes going on everywhere. People are worried about anger. And what we see with so many, even those who are in very serious therapies for years, is that they are in this despair for whatever reason. They feel powerless. They automatically, because their guidance system is guiding them to it, they find a place of anger where they feel better, but then they feel embarrassed about their anger because so many people have told them that it's inappropriate, so then they go back to despair, so they bounce back and forth from depression to anger, depression to anger, depression to anger, depression to anger, and they never continue to make the jump, where if you say, it's all right for me to be angry, in fact, I choose this angry thought because it feels so much better than the other thoughts that are coming, I'm doing it on purpose, I'm not inappropriate for choosing it. I don't like the way you're treating your little brother, and I didn't like the way people treated me, and I don't like anybody that picks on anybody. It's inappropriate. What's wrong? Why can't we all just get along? In other words, beat the drum of that anger a little bit, maybe even try to understand it, but then don't try to stay in the anger. Try to reach for something that feels softer than that. So we want you to talk us up this emotional scale, and let's deal with the issue that has been activated within you. What is it? What is that feeling of powerlessness? In other words, most don't even want to admit they've got any feelings of powerlessness because it makes you feel weak. But we want you to acknowledge that everyone has feelings of powerlessness, and unless you acknowledge it and begin to deliberately work your way up the scale, then things out there in the world are going to bother you forevermore. In other words, you want to get to this place where you're so secure that you just don't worry about anything. What is it about watching the 10-year-old put down the 6-year-old that is so uncomfortable to you? Poke around at it until you find the sensitive spot.
It's probably my memories of being discounted when I was little.
It might be.
Particularly, probably by my dad.
It could very well be that. But the thing that we want to remind all of you is that your now is about the vibrations that you're offering now. And so it feels like when we're talking about the past that we're talking about something that should be sort of left there. But the fact that you're having the emotional response to it now means it's still active in your vibration now. So are you saying to us that it was activated then and you've just kept it alive with those memories? Or did you keep it alive with those memories and so you're attracting it in a real way now?
I see. Well, perhaps it's connected to some of the things I was saying a moment ago. Trying to live my life in such a way now that I'm guided from within rather than compelled from without, and still feeling moments and experiences of uncertainty around that when I'm supposed to be doing something that would look more effective or more active.
And so it's...
Or make me feel more secure,
and so
at least in the short term.
So it still is...
And so that's a power issue.
It still is, as it is with most people. It's more important to me to present myself in a way that I'm approved of by those who see me than it is for me to present myself in a way that feels good only to me.
Yeah.
Almost anyone who's counseling any little kids that are 6 and 10 is trying to teach them how to live in the real world, trying to teach them socially acceptable behavior kind of things. And what we are really wanting everyone to understand is that the only behavior that will ever put anyone in a place where they will be happily attracting forevermore is the behavior that says, I have to find a way of making this feel good to me. I have to find a way of thinking it in a way that will allow me to align with who I really am in this moment. And so, talk to us about your father, just a little bit.
Intimidating and remote.
So, somehow, without meaning to, you look to him for approval. Mm-hmm. Because much of your good came through the vortex called Father. And then you became, as most people do, dependent upon his appreciation of you, which was not forthcoming very often.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so you've spent much of your life experience, even though you want to be over that now because intellectually you know better. But things that happen like this with your nephews make you realize you're not really over it. Mm-hmm. Approval of your father or approval of others still somehow is more important to you than your own. Now, what is alignment with Source? Could you use the word approval? It's a little bit of a stretch, but isn't it that? In other words, when your father is looking at you and loving you and appreciating you and acknowledging the value of you in this moment, he is in alignment with source energy and he's flooding pure positive energy all over you, and that feels to you like approval. Now, we don't like the word approval very much because there's this judgment within it, but we think the way that most people use the word approval is about someone appreciating you and in their appreciation aligning with source, and in that feeling of flooding that source energy all over you, there is a feeling of well-being that comes to you.
Right.
And so,
except for the mistake that's so easy to make in believing that they're the source of that well-being for me.
What they were a vortex for you. And so,
therefore that can go away.
You are taking the words right out of Esther's mouth. In other words, that's right what she is queued up to say. That what you are really wanting to come to the place of is nothing is more important than that I feel good and I have my own direct access to that source. And dear Father, misguided as you are, or lost as you are, or bullied by the society as much as you are, I'm no longer holding you responsible for the way I feel because I have my own direct access to source energy. So here you are in this place that feels like, let's call it disapproval. Let's call it not appreciated. What is the word you would call it when you focus upon your father's lack of appreciation for you?
No, powerlessness will do fine. Inadequacy.
It is. And powerlessness and inadequacy and fear, they're all down there in those vibrations, aren't they? So now, do something about it. You can't jump all the way on this particular subject. We could switch subjects and you could go into joy and ecstasy as you think about different things. But on this subject of your powerlessness and your feeling of relationship with your father, you can't quantum leap there. So we think anger is a pretty good place to step in. So go there deliberately and see if you can't soothe something within yourself by speaking some words of anger deliberately about this subject.
Well, as I see him before me, I can hear myself saying to him, I'm angry that he took advantage of me that way.
Go on.
And I'm angry that he used me as a scapegoat for his own feelings of rebelliousness and inadequacy and powerlessness.
Yes, it went on too damn long. What else?
And that he shouldn't have picked on me.
Yes. What else?
He was in a power position relative to me, and he should not have taken advantage of that.
Yes.
He should have been much more responsible.
Yes.
He should have loved me unconditionally.
Yes. All right. Now,
And as I say that, I feel myself also wanting to acknowledge and feeling a little softer because I want to acknowledge
Well, now you see what's happening to him
that he
already?
was doing the best he could.
Already, you've moved right. You went into anger, which you had access to. Now, you couldn't go from that powerless feeling into forgiveness or into loving him. But by using the blessed bridge of anger, consciously and deliberately, once you got in there, then you moved very, very quickly.